Welcome back to the second session. I hope you got value from the first one. If you haven't already listened to it, I'd probably go start there. That's a really good introduction to what we're doing here and what the objectives of meditation are. Quick recap: we're not trying to stop thinking. We're not thinking with our eyes closed. Meditation doesn't need to look the way we've been told to expect it to look. It's probably worthwhile challenging some of our preconceived expectations and checking that we're clear on what our intentions are, managing our own expectations, sitting with the sitting, let it being whatever it is, and then reflecting afterwards what the value was we got from that experience and how we're quantifying value and allowing integration to take place so we can start getting some progress basically from our meditation mindfulness practice. Remembering the intention is really for ourselves to improve the relationship we have with ourselves and therefore the relationship we have with other people. And that's a pretty noble intention. And what we're fundamentally trying to achieve more than anything else is simply to notice the nature of our minds rather than to control our minds in some way. It's to notice the nature of our minds and the nature of emotion and the fact that we aren't the authors of all those thoughts and feelings. And that noticing of that and the awareness of that can actually create a space for us to sit and choose how we want to act in a moment rather than simply reacting all the time. So today's meditation session is we're going to borrow from the Zen tradition. Borrow only. And I say borrow because we're not going to sit in perfect posture. We might practice that later on in a later session, but we're simply going to borrow their style of meditation, the activity that happens once our eyes are closed. And the tradition of Zen meditation, and specifically Zen Koans, is predicated on holding one of these small little koans, which function a little bit like riddles that you aren't supposed to try and solve. They're in some ways phrases or questions that can be nonsensical, which means they don't allow the usual way we subscribe to our senses and try and process that information and capture it and categorize it and get to an answer. We try to do something that's almost the opposite. And the idea or the premise in Zen is that enlightenment is something that can happen almost in an instant. It's not to say that's the aim or the goal, but it's to create the conditions or nurture the conditions under which that might happen. So it's a bit more like a fruit that's allowed to ripen in its own time, but in that moment of ripening it can fall from the tree. And it's not the pulling of levers or the beating of a sword into shape on an anvil. It's simply the curating, gentle curating of these circumstances that will allow what is already within inside of us in terms of awareness to connect with what is already there in terms of what's fundamentally true about the universe, if anything is fundamentally true at all. So the Zen Koan we're going to start with today it goes like this: not knowing is most intimate. So let's close our eyes, take a nice deep breath through the nose, we take those deep breaths through the nose specifically to allow that deep breath to hit nerve endings in our bottom of our lungs, which trigger a response in the parasympathetic nervous system to reduce stress, reduce cortisol. We just sit comfortably. We've removed all of our distractions. If you're not ready, quickly pause the meditation, go and set the room up that you want it to. Get comfortable, sit in a way that you can maybe sit for 10-15 minutes without being too uncomfortable. Let's begin with the story. The story is about a famous Zen master who, at the time of one of his profound awakenings, was on a pilgrimage of sorts through China. He was visiting monasteries and holy places. And on one such visit, he was at a monastery where he had been holed up by a heavy snowfall. And on the day that he was supposed to now leave, a few of the monks and the abbot had gathered to see him off. And the abbot asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, I'm on pilgrimage. To which the follow-up question was, what is pilgrimage? What is this thing that you're doing? And quite honestly, and without over sense of self-awareness, he answered honestly and said, I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. What is it really? To which the abbot replied, excellent. Not knowing is most intimate. So, in trying to come to answers or achieve states or understand things, the mind is very much shaped like a hand reaching to pick something up or grasp at something. So either the handle of a heavy bucket of water, or a very fine pen, or a hot cup of tea. There's a lot of preempting and framing and setting of the hand and of the body structure and the posture that we brace ourselves with, almost expecting the object to be hot or to be hard or to be soft or to be heavy. And in the same way, when we try to come to answers, the mind is shaped in a certain way, almost predetermining what it's trying to grasp. And in that predetermining and in the clenching of the hand in certain shapes and ways, or the clenching of the mind, the thing that we're trying to come to can often elude us. And it's in fact resting the hand of the mind still and open, and allowing whatever there is to be interfaced with. That concept gives us some understanding of what is intended by not knowing is most intimate. So let's relax the fist of our minds and cease this activity of trying to reach, grasp, grab, hold, and touch the active aspect of that. Let's embrace the passive aspect of intimacy. Not knowing is most intimate. Not having an agenda, not holding hard, firm expectations. Having a full sense of tolerance and acceptance and allowing of whatever is. So where we're meditating, there might be background noises, dogs barking, somebody moving around in the next room, sounds of traffic or bird song, crow calling in the distance. These distractions are allowed. There's nothing to do here. For this few minutes, let's simply drop all chores, all expectations. Drop how we expect this to look or feel. There's no thing to fail at or pass at. There's just sitting, just allowing of what is. Just sitting like this. And it's almost like putting something in a cup of tea leaves that are loose, and just gently, ever so gently, giving the cup a light stir. And the tea leaves in the cup that we're stirring is the Zen Koan. We're just giving it a light swirl. Not knowing is most intimate. And allowing the ideas, like the tea leaves, to become suspended in the hot water. And let the currents of the water undulate in little syrupy snakes, moving around our conscious awareness. Not knowing is most intimate. Just sitting here, tasting stillness, relaxing the grasping hand of our minds. Nothing to fetch, nothing to understand, nothing to pursue, nothing to do, no solving. Just simply being here, allowing all the noises, all the distractions, the sensations in the body, percolating up into our awareness, the breath rising and falling, nothing to control, just sitting, tolerant, accepting, allowing. Offering no resistance to what is. Allowing our awareness to reach a new deep level of intimacy with everything that is already there. Not knowing is most intimate. The word often used for this kind of practice is marinating. Not knowing is most intimate. Simply sitting in stillness. If we become distracted, get lost in thought, simply begin again. No judgment, no concern, nothing lost. Simply begin again. If we're uncomfortable, we can just adjust our seat slightly. Simply begin again. Giving the teacup just the most gentle of stir. So slight, almost as if we're moving the spoon through the cup, trying not to move the delicate flakes of tea leaves suspended in the water. Not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is most intimate. Nothing to do. No problem to solve. No sounds to fetch or categorize. No feeling to resist or wish away. Full acceptance. Full release. Not knowing is most intimate. How close can we get by relaxing, releasing, surrendering? Undoing. Allowing noises, allowing distractions, allowing thoughts and sensations to rise and fall. Like clouds moving through a sky, leaving the sky unchanged when they've passed. We can gently notice the depth in our field of vision behind our closed eyes. We can notice the sensation of lying down or sitting. We can taste how our tongue tastes in our own mouth. Simply observe it. Pick up all the sounds around us, nearby, far away. Gently, without reaching, just explore the distance or boundary of your awareness. Loose fist, open hand of the mind. Passive, intimate. Not knowing is most intimate. Slowly clench your fingers in your hand, get some movement moving through your toes and your feet. Maybe roll your shoulders a bit, arch your back, gently tip your neck and your head side to side. Maybe take a long, gentle, deep breath. Nice grounding breath. Come back into your body. Clear your throat. Come back into the room. Maybe open your eyes and reflect for a moment on the practice. Sitting with Zen Koans lets us take these little phrases or questions or statements and let them do their own work, like when we plant a tree or when a tree is bearing fruit. There's nothing that we need to do to allow that fruit to ripen. There are things that are just happening at our unawares. And sitting with koans are like these natural stimulators of different parts of our brain that don't usually work together, a bit like synesthesia. Allowing the passive side of inquiry to just quietly do its work below the surface, rewiring our brain, ripening. And we find that in relaxing any attempt or dropping any idea or understanding that we have something to do, to achieve, we can really let our awareness and our mind and our consciousness just do what it needs to do and do what it's going to do anyway. And this is what people say when they say you need to get out of your own way. So I hope that was helpful. I often sit with Zen Koans. I've been using them for a number of years now. The practice afforded me a completely different gear in my own mindfulness practice. And it's something which I think we'll revisit throughout this series of guided meditations. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again in a follow-up session.